30% of Nigerian women don't carry pikin when no belong to the man, give am.
Are you saying that 90% of women that leave their husbands because their husbands are cheating end up with married men?
Yes. If 100 Yahoo boys in Nigeria, nights when they give their babe money, now if I like my babe.
You decided in your head that you wanted to give me money and you now do something stupid, like send me a stupid amount, like 5K or 10K. It's good. I'm
what do you want me to tell you? Thank you.
So at least say, you know, to get money, at least 50 million should be in your account.
50 million.
Why are we putting a price on our vaginas?
Like, animals put prices on their vaginas, like goats, cows. We're all doomed.
Later.
When I told you I needed Google for this one, I was like, maybe I was the one getting it all wrong. The idea of podcasting itself used to be so serious. Remember the iPod era? Well, I was a kid back then, and even I knew that when someone tells you they are listening to a podcast, they are probably into some wellness, self-growth, or mindset shifting stuff. Back in 2004, I could barely think for myself. But this man right here was and still is a journalist. He's not dead. In an article, it suggested the term which combined iPod and broadcasting, hence the birth of podcasting. As the first specialist correspondent on the internet for the Times of London and the Guardian, he became the inventor of the popular term podcast. Apple even integrated podcasts to their iTunes in 2005, making the feature more accessible to a broader audience. And as time went on, it became a cultural phenomenon. Back then as well, it was just a listening tool, until platforms like YouTube and Vimeo started offering creators a space to upload the visual version of their podcast. And by the 2010s, YouTube became a dominant platform for podcasting. But still, it took a while to become a thing in Nigeria. However, after Nigerians caught a wind of this podcasting of a thing, we took it and, in our usual way, morphed it into something else that is happening today. Now, Chapter 1, the podcast crisis. So now, podcasts have exploded in Nigeria, and it started good. Hope Ibiale wrote an article on this for Afrocritic. Podcasts offer a unique platform for Africans to share their stories, expertise, and perspectives with a global audience. From thought-provoking discussions on important social issues to entrepreneurial success stories and creative expressions of African arts and culture, the podcasting medium allows Africans to amplify their voices, challenge stereotypes, and contribute to global dialogues. From its small beginnings over a decade ago, the podcasting industry in Africa has evolved tremendously to become a notable platform for entertainment, news, and storytelling. In essence, Nigerians were using the platform the right way for discussions, storytelling, and in-depth conversations. I personally have never been a huge fan of podcasts, but there were a slew of podcasts suggested for quality, wholesome content. Some even spanned outside Nigeria to other African countries. One in particular dated as far back as 2014, which was very interesting to me, and I cannot formally attest to the quality of any of these podcasts, but the fact that they are not trending on Instagram and TikTok is good enough for me, because you know that for you to trend on those platforms in Nigeria, you have to be as highly controversial or inflammatory as it can get. The 2020 Panini exposed podcasts to creators and decided to see it as something they can do as a side hustle. Spotify and Apple started to invest in video podcast features to try to compete with YouTube. And in 2022, Spotify actually allowed select creators to upload their video podcast on their platform. And this was all well and good. No problem with that. But then creators started to take out very controversial and almost racist snippets from their podcast to start posting it on TikTok and Instagram Reels. And that's where the problem started. He allowed half-baked, highly explicit narratives to be pushed to a broader audience off their normal podcast platforms. Then people will start to speculate and debate the controversies in the comment section. And just like that, the creators get more engagement. Chapter 2, the outrage economy. And here we are. It is now turned into a chaotic mess of controversies, unnecessary gender war, and an obsession with sexual content. Every other week, there is a new clip going viral, and it's almost never about someone saying anything profound. Rather, it's usually a guest or host making some outlandish claim about relationships, money, or sex, designed purely to spark outrage. Aside from my research for this video, I can honestly say that everything I know about podcasts like The Honest Bunch, Rants and Bants, that's T-Badge's podcast show, I know entirely against my will. At this point, I feel like we've all subconsciously come to terms with the fact that the people that go on some of these podcast shows are sketchy. And that's why when some well-known personalities go on there, a lot of us get really disappointed. And then there's blogs like Instablog constantly force-feeding them down our throats. Podcasts are no longer about quality conversations. They've become battlegrounds for shock value, exaggerated personal stories, and recycled low-effort debates. I made a video some time ago about our online presence, and I knew that if I added this conversation, that video would have been too long. And I know you guys don't like really long videos. But wait, let me not even speak for you. Do you guys like long videos? But honestly, at what point do we stop to ask ourselves if truly this is the type of content we want to consume? I'm honestly tired of hearing takes like this. And I know some of you would say, why not just watch the whole video? Oh, me. Watch the whole video. Okay, firstly, I don't follow any of these podcasts. The only reason I come across their content is because it's probably trending for the wrong reasons and blogs are force feeding them down my throat. And what are they talking about really? Are they talking about how to level up, style tips, or even social conversations? The obsession with sex and overt sexualization. At this point, if you randomly click on a podcast clip, there's almost a 70% chance that you'll be met with conversations about relationships or some weird gender roles. It's a really disturbing trend where every conversation is reduced to hypersexual content. It's almost as if they feel like you guys don't have any other interest apart from sex and dating. And I know it's primal instinct of humans to think about sex and dating. But when I know it's tired, every time man and woman matter, I mean, can we just shut this conversation? Like, rest. I feel like we need to rest a bit. You know what? This wouldn't even be a problem if these conversations were mature, informative, or at the slightest bit insightful. But instead, we are met with conversations about men talking about how women are just playthings, women giving men absurd dating ultimatums, people arguing about whether a woman should cook for a man she's dating. Like,
Hey, once the man is married,
Yes.
he should be out of bounds. For who?
How is your
Life is
fault?
preference, right? I like to date married men. You cannot date married men. Let me do what works for me. Primary thing that keeps the man coming back is the sex, not anything.
To show us your dash and your breast. I like it. Not be everybody that actually shows. So if you make the decision of showing us, we appreciate. Don't stop showing.
Baby, one kills. You don't have to use one to one. It will kill your.
So you have to do multiple.
why is this happening? Well, the answer is quite simple. It's because sells. Or more accurately, the controversy around sells. It's one thing to have a well-rounded conversation about mature topics like this, but it's also another thing to continue to push topics like this just for clickbait and clout. Like, that's the reason at this point. There is nothing of substantial value that they want to impact on us. It's a ridicule at this point. Another big issue with podcasting today is freedom of choice. Anyone can start a podcast. Never mind your expertise or even basic knowledge on certain topics you want to talk about. In the past, we listened to professionals, experts, or even people who just had personal experiences and want to share it with others. But now all you need is a mic, ring lights, and a controversial hot take. As you guys can see, I got a stand for my mic. So I also have ring lights. So my equipment is getting complete very soon because I'm going to start my own podcast too. Because I need to change some of these narratives. Hello. It's just that I'm not trained. I'm not trained. You people not watch it. So yeah, the audience is part of the problem. Or is the audience even the main problem?
We put out an episode yesterday. It was a tech episode. It was educative. It was interesting. It was power packed. Yeah, a lot of things were discussed as regards tech. And I mean, I went to see the numbers. It wasn't buzzing. Yeah, we're not talking about it. But if it is an Ashawo episode, people will be calling me, Zeni, can get some bring. Who be that clutches I bring? Now we put up an educative episode. Nobody's watching. Nobody's watching. So who are we to blame? Who are we to blame for what's going on in the society?
I keep talking about this. I don't know. Well, we all have a responsibility, actually. What makes all this worse is that a lot of these people are not speaking from personal experience. They're just doing all this for clicks and views. So what do we do? In as much as I would like to dissect every part of the solutions we can employ in this topic, I made a whole video about this. So you can just watch that because I don't like to repeat myself. And I also think that this video is already too long. So you can watch this video, and I really detailed the things that we can do as creators and audience to try to change this narrative. See, between the overt sexualization topics, the brain dead takes, and our obsession with clout and outrage, one thing is clear: something has to change. At the end of the day, the audience, you guys, and in some cases me, we have the power. What we engage in determines what gets promoted. So I feel like if a significant number of us can try to not engage with this type of content, it's just that Nigerians will embarrass you. But yeah, if we can try, if a significant number of us can try to not engage with this type of content, definitely something will improve and things will change, hopefully. But anyway, that's the end of the video. You guys can follow me on my socials. I do a lot of crazy cool stuff on there. The handle is Fatty. Yeah, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Apple even integrated Yoruba. Apple even integrated post. What's post? What are you saying? What are you saying? Apple even designed purely to spark outrage. Aside from my research for this video, I say video.